That lobster tail you paid $32 for at Canada's most popular seafood chains? It's been sitting frozen in a warehouse for over a year, and the meat you're chewing isn't even real lobster in some cases. How can you tell if you're being served premium Atlantic lobster or cheap frozen imitation seafood marked up 400%? Red Lobster's garlic shrimp scampi glistens under warm restaurant lighting, steam rising from the plate like a promise of fresh seafood luxury. Walk into any location across Canada, and the menu screams premium quality. But peel back the corporate curtain, and you'll find something disturbing. That succulent lobster tail advertised as fresh? It's been frozen for months, sometimes over a year, shipped from processing plants thousands of miles away. Red Lobster sources most of its lobster from suppliers who flash freeze the meat immediately after harvest, then store it in industrial freezers before shipping to Canadian locations. The restaurant defrosts it in-house, plates it with butter, and charges you premium prices for seafood that lost its ocean flavor long ago. The texture tells the truth. Fresh lobster meat springs back when you press it, firm and slightly resistant. Red Lobster's lobster feels mushy, waterlogged, almost spongy, because ice crystals rupture the delicate muscles. Fibers during freezing. You're paying $28 for a tail that costs the chain maybe $4 wholesale. But here's where it gets worse. Red Lobster's endless shrimp promotion, that famous all-you-can-eat deal Canadians love, uses the smallest, cheapest shrimp available, often farm-raised in questionable conditions overseas. These shrimp swim in crowded pools pumped full of antibiotics to prevent disease outbreaks. The chain markets it as indulgence, but you're eating antibiotic-laced seafood while Red Lobster pockets the difference between rock-bottom supplier costs and your final bill. Then there's Joey Restaurants, the upscale chain Canadians trust for special occasions and business dinners. Joey's menu features a lobster and shrimp trio that looks restaurant magazine perfect, garnished with microgreens and drizzled with lemon butter. The price? $34. The reality? Joey sources pre-cooked, frozen lobster meat from the same industrial suppliers that service budget chains. Their kitchen staff doesn't crack fresh lobster shells or pull meat from live tanks. They open vacuum-sealed bags, reheat the contents, and arrange it artfully on your plate. The deception runs deeper. Independent taste tests conducted by food bloggers across Vancouver and Toronto revealed Joey's lobster has that telltale rubbery bounce, the kind that only comes from double cooking. It was cooked once at the processing plant, frozen, then reheated in Joey's kitchen. Each heating cycle degrades the protein structure, turning once tender lobster into something that chews like my seafood-flavored rubber bands. You're not getting fresh Atlantic lobster caught off Nova Scotia's coast. You're getting reheated factory product marked up 300% because Joey's marble tables and dim lighting convince you otherwise. The pattern becomes impossible to ignore when you examine Milestone's grill and bar, another Canadian staple found in shopping districts and business parks nationwide. Milestone's offers a lobster and crab dip as an appetizer, marketed as rich, creamy, and loaded with real seafood. The menu doesn't mention that real means real imitation in industry speak. That creamy dip you're scooping onto tortilla chips? It contains surimi, the Japanese term for processed fish paste molded and flavored to mimic crab and lobster. Surimi starts as cheap white fish, usually pollock, ground into paste, mixed with starches, artificial flavoring, and food coloring, then shaped to look like premium shellfish. Milestones charges $16 for an appetizer that costs them maybe $2 to make because surimi sells for a fraction of real lobster prices. Scan the ingredient list if they ever show you one, and you'll find phrases like natural and artificial flavors, modified food starch, and sodium. Tripoli phosphate, a chemical used to retain moisture and add weight. You're not tasting lobster. You're tasting engineered seafood product, designed to fool your taste buds while Milestones laughs all the way to the bank. Then, consider Montana's BBQ and Bar, the rustic-themed chain famous for ribs, but increasingly pushing seafood combos to boost profit margins. Montana's features a surf and turf special pairing steak with lobster tail, and the presentation looks Texas-sized generous. But here's the trick. Montana's lobster tails are split lengthwise and butterflied to make them look bigger than they actually are. A 4-ounce tail, already small by premium standards, gets cut and spread across the plate to create the illusion of an 8-ounce portion. The meat itself comes from cold water rock lobster, a species that sounds premium but actually refers to spiny lobster from warmer southern waters, completely different from the prized North Atlantic lobster Canadians expect. Rock lobster meat tastes blander, more fibrous, and significantly cheaper to source. Montana's charges you $32 for this deceptive plate, while spending maybe $6 on the actual lobster. The restaurant counts on your eyes seeing size and your brain assuming quality, but your taste buds know something's wrong even if you can't quite pinpoint it. The butter sauce. Montana's drowns the lobster in? That's intentional. Heavy sauces mask inferior seafood flavor, hiding the mushiness and lack of sweetness that defines low-grade frozen product. Now, we need to talk about Eastside Mario's, the Italian-American chain with checkered tablecloths and unlimited garlic bread. Eastside Mario's recently added a lobster ravioli to their menu, capitalizing on Canadian consumers' growing appetite for premium seafood. The dish costs $22 and arrives steaming hot, covered in rosé sauce, with visible chunks of lobster meat dotting the plate. Except those chunks aren't chunks at all. They're flakes, tiny shreds of lobster mixed with cream cheese and breadcrumbs to stretch the filling. Food industry insiders call this lobster extender, a technique where restaurants combine minuscule amounts of real lobster with cheap fillers to create the appearance of generous seafood portions. Eastside Mario's ravioli contains maybe 1 ounce of actual lobster spread across 12 pasta pillows. The rest is filler you could buy at any grocery store for pennies. Independent lab analysis of similar chain restaurant lobster dishes found some contained less than 8% real lobster by weight. The remaining 92% was filler, binders, and artificial flavoring. You're paying premium prices for mostly pasta and cream cheese, while Eastside Mario's pockets profit margins that would make a used car salesman blush. But the most concerning discovery involves Swiss Chalet, the rotisserie chicken chain embedded in Canadian dining culture for generations. Swiss Chalet recently launched a lobster roll, trying to capitalize on the East Coast specialty's popularity. The roll costs $18 and comes stuffed with what the menu calls fresh lobster salad. Order it, and you'll notice immediately something's off. The lobster meat has an almost translucent quality, pale pink instead of the rich coral white of real lobster. That's because Swiss Chalet uses langostino, a crustacean commonly mislabeled as lobster in the restaurant industry. Langostino looks similar to lobster when chopped and mixed with mayonnaise, but it's actually a type of squat lobster more closely related to hermit crabs than true lobsters. It costs a fraction of real lobster prices and tastes noticeably different, more shrimp-like, less sweet, with a waxier texture. The FDA in the United States allows restaurants to call langostino lobster, and Canadian regulations aren't much stricter, creating a legal loophole. Swiss Chalet exploits enthusiastically. You think you're getting a Nova Scotia lobster roll for $18. You're actually getting a langostino roll marked up 400% because Swiss Chalet knows most customers can't tell the difference until it's too late. So where do you turn when every familiar chain seems designed to separate you from your money while delivering substandard seafood? Start with Rodney's Oyster House, a Canadian institution with locations in Toronto and Vancouver. Rodney doesn't play games. They display live lobsters in tanks you can see from your table, and when you order, staff pull your lobster right there, weigh it in front of you, and cook it fresh. No frozen tails. No mysterious back-of-house preparation. You watch your dinner come from tank to pot to plate. The meat tastes completely different, sweet and firm, with that distinctive mineral ocean flavor frozen lobster can never replicate. Yes, Rodney's costs more, usually $45 to $50 for a whole lobster depending on market prices, but you're paying for actual premium product, not marking up cheap frozen imports. Another trustworthy option? The Keg Steakhouse and Bar. While the Keg focuses primarily on beef, their lobster tail add-on actually delivers quality. The Keg uses only North Atlantic cold water lobster tails, never rock lobster or warm water substitutes, and their kitchen staff knows proper cooking technique. The meat arrives tender, never rubbery, with visible definition between muscle segments, the hallmark of properly handled fresh or flash frozen premium products. The Keg doesn't hide behind heavy sauces either. They serve the tail with drawn butter and lemon, letting the lobster's natural flavor shine through. You'll pay $28 for the addition. But the Keg's reputation depends on quality, and their lobster reflects that commitment. For true budget-conscious consumers who still want real lobster, skip restaurants entirely and head to Loblaws or Sobeys seafood counter. Both chains sell live lobsters you can take home and cook yourself. A pound-and-a-half lobster costs around $25, feeds 2 people, and guarantees you're getting the genuine article. Boil it for 12 minutes, crack it open, and experience what lobster should actually taste like when corporate profit margins aren't involved. Learn to identify quality yourself. Real lobster meat should smell like clean ocean water, slightly sweet, never fishy or ammonia tinged. The texture should resist your teeth slightly before giving way, not dissolve into mush. The color should be coral white, with touches of pink, not translucent or grayish. If your lobster tastes bland, chews rubbery, or smells off, you've been served inferior product regardless of what the menu promised. So here's your mission. Share this video with everyone you know who loves seafood. Drop a comment telling me which chain shocked you most. Subscribe if you want more investigations exposing restaurant industry deceptions. Because when you know what to look for, you'll never get ripped off again. The next time some chain tries charging you $30 for frozen factory lobster, you'll walk out and find somewhere that actually respects your intelligence and your wallet. Are you ready to demand better?